You've been out since sunrise, your knees are wet, your back hurts, and there's a 5-gallon bucket in the truck full of rocks that looked incredible on the bar and look like driveway gravel now that they're dry. Maybe you've got a box in the garage from a trip you took in 2011 that you still can't identify. If that's you, I want you to hear this clearly. That's not bad luck, and it isn't a bad eye. Nobody ever taught you what a gemstone looks like before somebody cuts and polishes it. A rough stone worth $1,000 sitting in creek gravel looks nothing like the stone in the jewelry store window. It looks dull. It looks wrong. That's exactly why people step over it all day long. So here's what I'm giving you in the next 20 minutes. 7 methods that Japanese rock hunters have used for generations on the jade beaches and storm coasts of Japan. Exactly how to copy each one on American ground. 3 field checks you can do in 5 seconds with nothing but a pocket knife and a water bottle, what the material is actually worth when it's clean, and the mistake that kills each method. The 7th one is a sound test almost nobody in this country uses, and it's the one that will save you from hauling home a bucket of worthless rock. Stay to the end for that one. Before we go any further, do me a favor and tell me in the comments. What's the one stone you carried home in your pocket, absolutely certain you had something? And what did it turn out to be? Now here's why Japan matters, and it isn't culture. It's physics. Japan sits where 4 tectonic plates grind into each other. One plate is being shoved down underneath another, and that process, called subduction, is the only place on Earth where you get very high pressure combined with relatively low temperature. That specific combination is what makes jadeite. Not jade in the loose sense. True jadeite, one of the rarest gem materials on the planet, rarer in the ground than gold by a wide margin. It shows up in only a handful of subduction belts worldwide. Japan happens to sit on one of them, and the Itoigawa area on the Sea of Japan coast in Niigata Prefecture has produced jade for so long that Jomon period craftsmen were drilling beads out of it roughly 5,000 years ago. That's the oldest known jade working culture anywhere. In 2016, Japan's Mineralogical Society named jadeite the national stone. Now add the second half of the picture. Japan is steep, wet, and violent. The rivers are short and they run hard. Typhoons come in from the south, and winter storms come screaming across the Sea of Japan. That means the mountains are constantly being torn down and the pieces dumped on the beaches. The hunters there never had to dig a mine. The ocean does the mining, the sorting, and the tumbling for them. All they had to figure out was how to read what the water already did. And that's the part that transfers to you. Water sorts by weight, light reveals transparency. Storms strip cover, density gives away identity. None of that is Japanese, it's just physics. And it works the same on the Oregon coast, on Lake Superior, in a Wyoming Badlands wash, and in that creek 20 minutes from your house. Every method I'm about to give you is a way of making the ground tell you what's in it before you fill the bucket. Method 1, and it's so simple people refuse to believe it matters. Wet everything. On the jade beaches of Japan, serious hunters don't work the dry sand up by the parking lot. They work the wet swash zone, right where the last wave ran up and back. And when they pick up a candidate off dry ground, they pour water on it before they even think. Here's the mechanism in plain language. A beach pebble or a creek cobble has been sandblasted for years. Its surface is a frosted skin of microscopic pits, and that frost scatters light straight back at your eye. You're looking at the sandpaper, not the stone. Water fills those pits, flattens the surface optically, and lets light travel into the rock and back out. A dull gray lump becomes a translucent green. A chalky white pebble becomes a banded agate with a dozen rings in it. Nothing changed but the light path. This is why the Oregon coast agate hunters and the Lake Superior crowd work the wet line too, whether or not they know why. Carry a squirt bottle. A dollar spray bottle from the drugstore has found more gemstones than most rock hammers. The beginner's mistake here is the one that made you frustrated in the first place. Filling a bucket with dry rocks that look promising in the field and finding out at home that the promise was a film of dried silt. Wet it there. Decide there. Carry 10 good stones instead of 100 maybes. And once the stone is wet, the next thing that matters isn't the stone at all. It's where the sun is. Method 2. Hunt the light, not the ground. Japanese beach hunters go out in the first 90 minutes after sunrise and the last 90 before sunset, and they walk so the low sun is in front of them, not behind them. That sounds backwards until you understand what you're doing. With the sun behind you, you see reflected light, surface, color, shine. With a low sun in front of you, you're backlighting the beach, and every translucent stone on that gravel glows from the inside like a coal in a fire. Agate does it. Chalcedony does it. Carnelian burns orange. Jadeite gives a soft, wet, waxy glow at the thin edges. Common quartz does not glow that way. Quartz scatters, it goes bright white and flat, because the milky vein quartz that fools everybody is packed with microscopic fluid inclusions and healed fractures that bounce light back out. Real translucent gem material transmits. You are essentially candling the beach. Do the same in a creek by kneeling low so the water surface throws light sideways. Do it in a road cut by working the shaded side in the morning. The mistake is hunting at high noon, sun overhead, when nothing glows and every rock is the same flat gray. If you've come home empty from 10 trips in a row, check your watch before you check your eyes. There's a good chance you were on the right gravel at the wrong hour. Quick pause here because this is the part that changes seasons for people. Everything I just walked you through and dozens more signs like it is inside the Rockhound's Compass, 2026 edition. 50 field-tested ways to tell a gem from a pretty rock before you ever leave the creek. What each stone looks like in the rough, the crust and the matrix around it, and the ground that has to be there for it to exist at all. Links in the description, QR codes on your screen right now. This is the season you stop filling buckets with quartz. Method 3. Hunt the storm, not the calendar. There's a word for this on the Japanese coast that translates roughly as wash out. After a typhoon, after a big winter low pushes across the Sea of Japan, the hunters are on the beach the next morning at first light, and they're not there because the weather's nice. Big waves do two things. They strip the fine sand off the beach and expose the coarse lag gravel underneath, which is where every dense stone on that beach has been quietly settling for years. And they pull new material down out of the rivers and throw it up on the berm. 24 to 72 hours after the storm, that beach is a different place, and then the ordinary swell starts covering it back up with sand. On the Oregon and Washington coast, the same rule is why winter agate hunting beats summer by a mile. From November through March, the storm waves scour the beaches down to gravel, and by July, the sand is back and the agates are 3 feet under it. On Lake Superior, the November gales do the same job. In the desert, a flash flood does it in one afternoon. The wash cuts down to a fresh gravel layer nobody's ever walked. In your local creek, go 2 days after high water, when it's dropped and cleared, but before the next crowd of footprints. The mistake is planning your rock hounding around your vacation instead of around the weather. Watch the forecast the way a fisherman does. But timing only tells you when. It doesn't tell you how to look, and that's where most Americans lose the game against the Japanese hunters. Method 4. The 1 square meter rule. There's a deep tradition in Japan of stone appreciation. Suiseki, the art of viewing stones, and the plain old practice of walking a riverbed to pick up stones. Whatever you think of the aesthetics, it trained an entire hunting culture to do one thing Americans are terrible at: look slowly. Go to a jade beach in Niigata and you'll see people who have not moved 30 feet in an hour. They kneel, they sit on a bucket, they pick through one patch the size of a card table, then shift a body length and do it again. Here's why that works. The stone you're looking for is often 8 to 15 millimeters across, a half inch. When you walk at normal pace scanning the ground, your eye is only resolving big, bright, high-contrast objects. Everything small and subtle is invisible to you, and the small, subtle ones are exactly what the last 100 people also missed, which is why they're still there. Covering 2 miles of gravel bar feels productive. It is the least productive thing you can do. One good hunter working 100 square feet properly will beat a fast walker doing a mile every time. Apply it on the head of a gravel bar, on the drift line where the last high water dropped its load, on an old mine dump where the fines have washed down to the base of the pull. Take a 5-gallon bucket to sit on. The mistake is measuring your day in miles. Measure it in square feet worked properly, and your identification problem starts solving itself because you're finally seeing detail instead of shape. Look, I'll be straight with you. The 50 checks in the Rockhound's compass are laid out across 5 chapters, in the order you'd actually use them, so you can work through them right there at the creek, with the book open in one hand and the stone in the other. If you've been watching these videos thinking there's something out there you keep walking past, that's the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year you finally know what you're holding. Method 5. Read the sorting. Moving water is a machine that separates stones by density, and once you understand that, a beach or a bar stops being random. Jade has a specific gravity of about 3. 3. Nephrite jade runs right around 3. 0. Common quartz is 2. 65. Bottle glass is about 2. 5. That difference sounds small on paper, but to a river, it's enormous. The heavier material drops out of the current first and collects in the same traps that concentrate gold. The inside of a bend where the water slows, the downstream side of a boulder, the head of a gravel bar, the crack in exposed bedrock, and on a beach, the coarse gravel band at the base of the storm berm. Gold is the yardstick here, not the target. Anywhere a placer miner would set his sluice is exactly where the heavy gem material is sitting too, and most rockhounds walk right past those spots to go stand in the middle of the bar where the light gravel is. In Itoigawa, the jade comes down from the mountains in the Kotaki and Omi drainages, and it ends up concentrated in specific pockets along the coast. And I'll be honest about the rules there because it matters. The river gorge itself is a protected natural monument where collecting is prohibited, and the beach is where people legally hunt. Same principle here. Know whether you're on public land where collecting is allowed, a fee dig site, or somebody's claim. But the physics don't change. Find the trap, work the trap, and let the water sorting do the first 90% of your searching. Here's the part that should stick with you. In September of 2020, a bank employee named Kevin Kennard drove down to Crater of Diamonds State Park in Murfreesboro, Arkansas, with a group of friends over the Labor Day weekend. He'd been going there since a school field trip in the 4th grade and had never found anything. That day, he was working the plowed field after rain, and he picked up a marble-sized brown stone that he later said he thought was just an interesting piece of crystal or glass. He didn't get excited. He dropped it in a bag with everything else he was carrying and kept hunting. At the end of the day, he stood in line at the park's identification building mostly to have his other rocks looked at. That brown lump was a 9.07 carat diamond, the second largest diamond found at that park since it became a state park in 1902, and under Arkansas's Finders Keepers policy, it was his. Now hold on to the lesson, because it's the whole video in one sentence. It didn't look like a diamond. It looked like nothing. The only thing Kennard did right was that he didn't throw it away, and he took it to someone who could check it. Every method in this video exists so you can be your own identification station standing in the creek. Method 6. Weigh it in your hand. Japanese jade hunters call the palm a scale, and they train it deliberately. You put a known plain quartz pebble in your left pocket at the start of the day. Every candidate you pick up, you bounce it against that reference. 2 stones the same size, and 1 is roughly a quarter heavier. That's your jade, your nephrite, your dense heavy mineral. The reason this works is straight density. 3 versus 2. 6x5, and your hand is far better at detecting a weight difference between 2 objects than your eye is at judging color. This is also where our imposter shows up again, because here's the truth about jade hunting anywhere in the world, including at Big Sur and in the Wyoming Badlands. For every real piece, there are 500 white quartz pebbles and greenstone cobbles that look identical when wet. The quartz feels light. The glass feels lighter still, and glass gives itself away in 3 seconds. Put a 10-power loop on it and look for round bubbles, because bubbles form and melt and they never form in a stone that crystallized out of rock. Round bubbles mean glass, every time. Then take your pocket knife. A steel blade runs about 5.5 on the hardness scale. It will not scratch quartz, and it will not scratch true jade, but it will bite easily into serpentine and calcite, which are the 2 rocks that fool greenstone hunters and whitestone hunters respectively. Drag the stone across the back of an unglazed ceramic tile. A piece of a broken bathroom tile works, and a gem-grade silicate leaves no streak, while a lot of the heavy, dark lookalikes leave a colored powder line. Weight, blade, bubbles, streak. 4 checks, 30 seconds. And then there's the last one, which almost nobody in America has ever tried. Method 7. Listen to the stone. This is the one I promised you. On the Japanese jade beaches, an experienced hunter will hold the pebble loosely between 2 fingertips, not clamped in a fist because your hand deadens it, and tap it with another small stone or with the steel back of a knife. Then he listens. Real jadeite rings. It gives a bright, high, metallic little note that hangs in the air for a moment, almost like a tiny bell. Quartz gives a short, flat clunk. Serpentine and soapstone give a dull thud with no tail at all. A cracked stone, no matter what it's made of, sounds dead. Here's the mechanism, in plain words. Sound travels through a solid based on how dense it is and how stiff it is, and it keeps ringing only if there's nothing inside to interrupt the vibration. Jadeite is built from microscopic interlocking crystal fibers, all tangled together, which is what makes it one of the toughest natural materials on Earth. That's why Jomon toolmakers 5,000 years ago could drill beads out of it without shattering them, and why a jade axe head survives what would snap flint in half. That interlocking structure is also what makes it ring. Now here's why this matters to you even if you never see jade in your life. The tap test is a fracture detector, and fractures are what turn a promising rock into a pile of gravel on the saw. You bring home a 12-pound agate nodule, you spend an hour cutting it, and it comes apart into 6 pieces because it was full of hairline cracks you couldn't see. A clean nodule taps with a solid ring. A cracked one taps dead. It also tells you hollow from solid. Tap a geode, and you get a lighter, drummier note than the same size solid nodule, which is how people sort them without cutting. Use it at Big Sur's jade beaches in Monterey County, in the Serpentine belts of Washington and Northern California, in Wyoming's Nephrite country, in the Sweetwater area, on any agate beach, on any dump pile at an old mine where you're deciding what's worth carrying to the truck. And use it on our villain one last time, because a heavy green stone is not automatically jade. Most heavy green beach cobbles are serpentine or metamorphosed volcanic rock. The blade scratches serpentine. The tap goes dull on serpentine. Both tests agree in 5 seconds, and you've just saved yourself 40 pounds of dead weight and 1 more unlabeled box in the garage. Put the 7 together, and you have a system, not a list. You pick your day off the weather, not the calendar. You go to the sorting traps, inside bends, berm base, boulder shadows. You work the low-angle light with the sun in front of you, so translucent material glows. You slow down to 1 square meter at a time. You wet every candidate before you judge it. You heft it against a known quartz pebble, and you tap it and listen. 7 filters, and by the time a stone passes all 7, you already know most of what you need to know before it ever leaves the creek. Clean, well-colored translucent material, real gem-grade rough, is worth serious money, and the top end of the jade world is genuinely staggering. A strand of 27 jadeite beads once sold at auction in Hong Kong for more than $27 million. You're not going to find that on a Tuesday afternoon. But the difference between a bucket of gravel and 1 clean, ringing, glowing stone worth a few $100s is not luck. It's these 7 habits. So, tell me in the comments, which of these have you already found without knowing what it was at the time? A stone that glowed in the low sun, or one that felt too heavy for its size, or one that rang when you knocked it against another rock? I read them, and I want to know what part of the country you were in when it happened. Here's where you are now compared to 25 minutes ago. You know why a rough gem looks dull and dead on dry ground? And you know the 1-second fix. You know what hour of the day to be on the gravel and which direction to walk. You know the ocean and the river already sorted the heavy material into predictable pockets, and you know which pockets those are. You know how to check a stone 4 different ways with a knife, a tile, a loop, and your own hand. And you know that a rock has a voice and that a dead-sounding stone is telling you not to waste your afternoon on it. That's not a collection of tricks, that's the difference between wandering and hunting. If this was useful, subscribe before you close it out, because the next time you walk a gravel bar, I don't want you to be the person who stepped over something worth more per gram than gold and kept right on going. Next time out, we're getting off the water entirely and going into road cuts. Specifically the contact line where two different rock types meet, which is the single most productive 50 feet in most of this country, and the place almost every rockhound drives straight past at 60 miles an hour. Wet it, light it, weigh it, tap it. Go slow and come home with 10 good stones instead of 100 maybes. Good hunting out there, Rockhound.